Ayan po, sir. Meron na po.
Okay. So, let's start. So, for this week, we will tackle yung provisions, contingent liabilities, and contingent assets. Okay. Okay, let's start. So, provision. So, a provision is a liability of uncertain timing or amount. So, ito lang yung difference ni provision kay liability. Okay. A provision is something or somehow uncertain sa kanya. Whether timing or yung amount. Unlike dun sa definition natin ng liability, which states that liability should be uh, an obligation or a duty that the entity has no other legal option but to settle. Unlike ito, uh, it is probably not this year, or it is probably not the amount you actually uh, accrue in terms of amount in case na magbayad ka ng certain liability. Okay? So, it does not necessarily mean na kung ano yung i-provide mo or based on your provision, kung ano yung provided amount mo, is yun na yung babayaran. So, again, it is uncertain as to timing and amount. So, let's continue. Again, provision should be a result of past event, and the transfer of economic resource is probable. Okay. So provision differ from other liability because of the uncertainty in the timing of their settlement or on the amount of needed to settle them. Unlike the other liabilities, provision must be necessarily be estimated. So again, provisions are only estimates. So ito yung pinaka-best estimate available sa data at the time na kailangan natin siyang i-measure. Although some other liabilities are also estimated, their uncertainty is generally much less compared to provision. So, again, nagkakaroon naman tayo ng estimation especially sa mga liabilities. But provision is different. So, it usually involves large amount. So, if the provision deemed to be irrelevant, so must safe for entities for entity to just ignore it or just disclose it rather than record or recognize it. Okay? So, kung masyadong malaki yung magiging impact sa financial statements during the year, then provision is necessary. Okay? So, ito yung mga examples ng provision. Warranties, estimated liabilities on lawsuits. So, ito yung dismantling natin, decommissioning, and obligation caused by an entity's policy to make refunds to customers. So, usually connected tong dalawang to, obligations, warranty, and refunds. Obligation arising from guarantees, so in case of defaults, provisions on onerous contract, purchase commitments, example niya yan, and provision for restructuring costs. So, ito yung usually included dito yung reorganizations natin. In case na mag-close or magbebenta ng business segment si company. Okay, so next page. Okay. So provisions are presented in the statement of financial position separately from the other liabilities. Yes. Okay, wait. Provision. A provision is recognized when all of the following conditions are met. So the first is the entity has a present obligation, so both legal or constructive. This is also same with are requirement upon recognition of liabilities naman. Letter B, it is probable that an outflow of economic resource embodying economic benefits will be required to settle an obligation. Okay, so ito yung one of the difference. Probable. Okay. Unlike liability, as we define liability, the entity has a duty or responsibility that an entity has no practical ability to avoid but to settle the obligation. Okay? So, it means sure na, halos 100%, virtually certain na magbabayad si company. Unlike itong si recognition, itong si provision, it is only probable. So, ano ba yung probable? Actually, meron tayong tier. So, first is, we call it remote. So, remote liabilities, usually, ito yung mga liabilities on which the probability of outflow of economic resource is usually less than 10%. So, we also have possible. So, possible obligations, ito naman yung 50-50. So, it's possibly magbayad ka or hindi. But definitely, it is not probable. Okay. So, probable naman, siya naman si 50% or more. And we have virtually certain. In case of contingent assets naman, if it is sure, okay, sure na, you just need to accrue. So then you can recognize contingent assets if it is deemed to be virtually certain na makukolekta. Okay, so yan yung difference ng mga terms na to. So whenever we say remote, it is also same with contingent. Contingent. Okay. So this is for liabilities. But for asset, matatakal din natin dito si contingent asset. Okay. So that is letter B. It should be probable, at least probable. So meaning, hindi siya possible. So hindi dapat siya i-settle through a toss of coin na 50-50 chances. So it should be more than possible. So probable. So we can say 51%. Ay, medyo misleading to. So ilagay natin sa kunahan. Greater than 50%. Okay. Okay. So if ang possibility that the entity is to pay the other party is only 40%, then it is considered to be possible. So, no recognition is required. Ang kailangan mo lang is disclosure. Okay? Same with contingent and remote liabilities. But if it is probable, as mentioned dito naman sa textbook natin, you can recognize it. Provided itong mga qualities na to is met. Okay? So, in letter C, lastly, the amount of the obligation can be reliably estimated. So, if there is no reliable estimates regarding to the amount that the entity is expected to pay, then no recognition is required. Disclosure lang. Okay? Question regarding sa ating recognition conditions. Okay. So, if wala, then let's continue. Present. Oh, sorry. Question. Yes, Miss Camposano.
Good morning po, sir. Sir, pag ano po ba, kunwari po, meron pong 30% or 40%, papasok lang po ba siya dun sa may possible po?
Yes, yes. Possible lang siya.
Okay po.
Okay. So parang ano siya, parang anything between remote or contingent and probable, it is possible. Okay, so
Okay po, sir.
hindi ko kasi siya nailagay from 11% to 50%. Kasi usually, hindi naman ibinibigay yung ganong mga percentages. Usually, din sinasabi lang niyang contingent. So, it means there is a very low possibility na magbabayad si entity. So, we can define it as remote or contingent. And probable. It's either of the three lang naman.
Okay po, sir.
Okay.
Thank you po.
Okay, so, pero pwede niyong i-take siya as ganun. 11% to 50% is possible. Yes, pwede naman yan. Okay, so next is present obligation. In rare cases where it is not clear whether there is a present obligation, an entity deems a past event to give rise to a present obligation if available evidence shows that it is more likely than not that a present obligation exists at the end of the reporting period. So again, you should have a present obligation arising from past event. Ano ba sa audit? Ito, past event. Ito. Again, there should be obligating event. As mentioned naman na dito. Which is, ito siya. Okay, so for letter A, ang tinutukoy natin dito is si, saan ba yun? Obligating event. Ito. Okay, so there should be an obligating event. An obligating event is one whereby the entity does not have any other recourse but to settle an obligation. So this is in case for letter A, a legal obligation. So alam naman natin to arising from contracts and law. Letter B is entity's action. So usually constructive obligations. Usually example ito is yung ano natin, warranties. If the customers expects the entity to perform their obligation based on past transactions. Okay. So financial statements deal with past or historical information. Therefore, no provision is recognized for future operating costs. Again, so since these operating costs will be incurred in the future, so hindi dapat tayo mag-record ng provision for that. So that is technically, ina-accrue mo na yung mga costs without accruing the corresponding revenue for that. So again, it violates this principle of obligating event and it violates the matching principle at the same time. So provision for future operating costs is prohibited by the standard. The only liabilities recognized in an entity's statement of financial position are those that exist at the end of the reporting period. So already exists, meaning it is incurred. So yun lang yung pwede nating pwede tayo mag-record ng provision. And kailangan nating i-recognize as well since it is already incurred. Only those obligations arising from past event existing independently of an entity's future actions are recognized as provision. So the possible outflows of economic resource embodying economic benefits that an entity can avoid by changing its future actions are not recognized as provision. So ang example nito is halimbawa si Petron. Sample natin si Petron. Syempre nagbebenta siya ng oil, di ba? So, yung process niya, pag-refine ng oil sa consumable state niya is very polluting. Example, nakaka-pollute siya. So, therefore, there is a legislation passed by the Congress na bawal mo nang gawin yung ganyang process mo unless you will be fined. So, dapat na bang mag-set up si Petron ng provision for that? The answer is no. Kasi you have a chance na baguhin yung ah, process mo of refining your oil para hindi ka na masubject sa penalties dun sa bagong legislation. Okay, so again, as stated dito, only those obligations arising from past event existing independently of an entity's future action. So since you will only be penalized kung itutuloy mo lang yung process mo, di ba? So if you have changed your process after the legislation has been passed, then you should not record a provision. Okay. Any question? So again, past event. So since yung action of being penalized is not yet committed pa naman, so you are not liable. So therefore, no provision should be recognized. So although an obligation always involve another party to whom the obligation is owed, usually it is called also as obligee, it is not necessary that the entity of the obligee is known. So naalala nyo sa exam natin, parang naglagay ako rin ng question na it is necessary that the payee is identified. Basta yung ewan ko, basta binaliktad ko yun. So, dalawa yun. The payee and the obligee. Sorry, the payer and the obligee. So, kapag hindi identified si obligee, then you can still have a provision being recognized on your financial statement. Okay? Kahit hindi mo kilala kung sinong babayaran mo, then you can still recognize provision. Dahil nga, sample niya dito, hindi the obligee may be the public at large. So, pwede magbayad ka sa mga tao or pwede ka magbayad sa local government, sa national government. So, it depends. But if there is a past event or the obligating event happened, then you can recognize provision. So, example natin dito is yung oil spills. Diba? Yung mga corporate na or yung mga corporation na usually mga shipping lines yun and yung mga oil retailer, sila rin yung nagbabayad nun. Kanino? Diba? So usually, dun sa mga tao na apektado and at the same time, sa local government. So, for now, hindi mo pa sila may isa-isa unless there is a formal may formal na reklamo na, then doon mo na sila makikilala. But obligating event is already happened. So you have to record provision for that. Okay, so for constructive obligation to create a valid expectation from others, it is necessary that the commitment must have been communicated for the parties concerned before the end of the reporting period. So ito naman yung sa ano natin, repairs and warranties. Okay. So next, probable outflow of economic resource embodying economic benefits. So probable, ito pala siya, nalagay pala. Okay, so probable outflow of resources embodying economic benefits. Probable means more likely than not. So there is a higher chance that the event will cause an outflow of economic benefits than not. So we may think it as 51% or more. So we can take it as majority. If the estimates of the experts says that it is 51% or more, then we can therefore translate it on accounting terms as probable. Then we will recognize provision if that is the case. So if it is 50-50, as we have mentioned dito nga sa nakalagay nating una dito, so it is called a possible obligation. If it is 50-50, hindi yata nakalagay, then it is not probable because there are equal chances of occurrence and non-occurrence. Ito pala. 50-50 chance is possible but not probable. Okay. Reliable estimate of the obligation. Provisions necessarily need to be estimated. If a reliable estimate cannot be made, then no provisions is recognized. Yes, very straightforward. Kung walang reliable estimate that can be made for the provision, then it is not recognized. Okay? Contingent liabilities. Sorry, questions. Baka may tanong. Okay, so if wala, let's continue. Contingent liabilities. In a general sense, all provisions are contingent because they are of uncertain timing or amount. However, PAS 37 uses the term contingent to refer to those liabilities and assets that are not recognized, but they do not meet all because they do not meet all of the recognition criteria. A provision and a contingent liability are differentiated below. Okay, so for provision, a liability of uncertain timing or amount that meets all of the following conditions. So ito yung ano natin, diniscuss kanina, yung A to C. However, for contingent liability, so it is both possible and remote, whose existence will be confirmed only by the occurrence or non-occurrence of one or more uncertain future events not wholly within the control of the entity, or present obligation, but it is not probable that it will cause an outflow in its settlement. So, whenever we say it is not probable, then we can therefore assume na siya ay possible since it is not probable. And the second one is its amount cannot be reliably estimated. Then we can call it contingent liability. Okay. Question regarding dito. Okay, so contingent liabilities are disclosed only except when the possibility of an outflow of resources embodying economic benefits is remote. So again, as we have discussed, if it is remote, then there's a very low chance that this liability will come to reality. Okay. Okay. Question. Okay, if walang question, then let's continue. Contingent assets. So, contingent assets are, so remember, nasa assets tayo. Contingent assets are those that are not recognized because they do not meet all of the asset recognition criteria. So, example is resource controlled arising from past events. So, in this case, this is an inflow, probable inflow, and reliable estimation. So, kagaya lang ng sa liabilities natin, but on a different perspective lang. Contingent assets include possible inflows of economic benefits from unplanned or unexpected events such as claims that an entity is seeking through legal processes where the outcome is uncertain. Example is claim under tax disputes and disputed insurance claims. So ito naman usually yung mga tax credits to from BIR. So once already approved by the BIR for refund, then it is considered to be a contingent asset. Okay? But if you are under the process, then you can never recognize a contingent asset. Napaka-conservative uh, ng standard pagdating sa recognition of income. Pero napaka-loose naman niya sa recognition of liabilities. So, ganun siya. So, next is contingent assets are disclosed only. So, if the inflow of economic benefits is probable, they are not recognized because recognizing them may result to the recognition of income that may never be realized. So, ito yung isa sa difference nila. So, for liabilities, if it is probable, then we need to recognize it as a provision, di ba? But in case of contingent asset, it is not enough na probable siya. So, ano bang kailangan sa kanya para ma-record siya? So, however, when the realization of income is virtually certain, 100 chance of occurrence, then the asset is not a contingent asset and therefore it is appropriate to recognize it. Okay, so if it is almost sure, so ang hinihintay mo na lang example is kinabukasan para ma-recognize mo yung income, then you can actually record uh, a contingent asset. Okay, if it is virtually certain that the occurrence is 100%. Okay. Okay, question regarding contingent assets. Ano yung difference niya kay contingent liabilities? Okay, so if wala, let's continue. So ito yung summary niya. So if it is a contingent liability and it is probable, then you need to recognize and disclose it. So if it is possible or what we call 50-50, so only disclosure is required for contingent liabilities. However, if it is remote, it is ignored. So hindi mo na siya kailangang disclose and recognize at the same time. However, if it is a contingent asset, then it is only probable, then you have to disclose it. Disclosure lang if it is a contingent asset, a probable contingent asset. However, if it is possible and remote, contingent assets are ignored. So if it is 50-50, example, para ka lang nag-toss coin dyan, if yung contingent asset mo ba is realizable or hindi, then you don't need to disclose or recognize it. Contingent asset can only be recognized if it is virtually certain, as mentioned naman dito. Okay, question. Okay, so if wala, let's continue. Illustration number 1, contingent asset. So ABC company is involved in a tax dispute. So ABC has wrongfully paid taxes and is claiming for refund for the taxes it has previously paid. So as of December 31, 2021, ABC's legal counsel was very confident that ABC will be able to recover the tax refund amounting to 10 million in the coming year. So what is the entry to recognize the probable receipt of tax refund? So again, since it is a contingent asset, we need to look for sa signs that it is virtually certain na matatanggap na natin. But unfortunately, wala namang binanggit dito. And to make it worse, they state that it is a probable receipt of tax refund. So the answer is none. So wala kang i-recognize dito na contingent asset. However, baguhin natin yung wordings niya. Baguhin natin yung phrase. So ABC's legal counsel was very confident that the ABC will be able to recover the tax refund within the year and may approval na from BIR. Already approved by the BIR. Usually, yun yung hinihingi na, yun yung kailangan mong hanapin na term. Approval from someone na authorized na mag-release or na authorized na mag-agree para to make the transaction happen. So in this case, BIR, since this is taxes. And if you can find that him na approved na ni BIR and in the coming year, then we can consider it to be yes. Since it is almost sure kasi approved na ni approving authority, which is BIR in case of taxes. Okay? So, since wala siya, then no, disclosure lang. Because it is probable, as mentioned naman dito. If it is probable, then you have to disclose contingent assets. Number 2, Sorry, question dito. Meron ba? Ay, sorry. Lumalabo ba yung audio ko? Malabo pa rin ba hanggang ngayon? Okay na. Okay. Sige, sige. Malabo. Okay. Illustration number 2, virtually certain. Okay. So in 2021, there was a robbery in one of ABC's branches. So there has been a dispute on 100M Insurance claim that ABC has presented to its insurance provider. On December 31, 2021, the insurance company approved the payment of 80% of ABC's claim, so which is 80 million. So ABC received a letter that the settlement check for the amount had been mailed, but such check was received only on January 5, 2022. What is the entry to be made by ABC on December 31, 2021? So first of all, check mo if adjusting event siya. So, paano mo i-check? So, tingnan mo kung kailan nangyari yung approval. So, nangyaring approval by December 31, 2021. So, therefore, adjusting event siya. Number 2, hanapin mo if, again, the person of authority already approved yung repayment or refund. So, in this case, the insurance company already approved it on December 31, 2021. So, therefore, you have to record it, to recognize it, and at the same time, pasok siya sa entities reporting year, then yes, there should be recognition of contingent asset. So in this case, i-record natin siya as claims receivable because yung check is received lang noong January 5, which is after nung reporting period, and credit to gain on settlement of insurance. Okay? Question. Okay, so if wala, then let us continue. Measurement. Provisions are measured at the best estimate of the amounts needed to settle them at the end of the reporting period. So making the estimates requires management judgment supplemented by experience from similar transactions and in some cases reports from independent experts. So ito yung pinaka-reliable dyan in terms of measurement. Usually, ang nagpo-provide niyan is actuary or si auditors. Okay? Sila yung nakakapag-provide niyan. But if they deem that the internally generated report of provisions and measurement is reliable naman and justifiable, then they may consider it. Okay? So nangyayari to for actuaries, ang kailangan naman ng estimation is yung mga retirement funds. So kailangan mo ng actuaries doon para may record yung best estimate of retirement fund. And for other estimates, it depends kung sino yung applicable na tao doon. Like for insurance, kano yung claims mo. So maybe you can ask for actuary as well. Pero as long as the auditors consider it as valid, then it is valid. As good as independent reports, independent experts report. Okay? The estimate also consider events after the reporting period. If the provision being measured involves a large population of items, the obligation is measured at its expected value. So expected value is computed by weighing all possible outcomes by their associated probabilities. So actually, ito yung para ka lang nagko-compute ng relative value nito. Since expected value yung ginamit niya. Okay, so if there is a continuous range of possible outcomes, yes, this is relative value method ang gagamitin dito. Okay. Ito yung i-multiply mo yung iba't ibang possibility of outcomes on different figures. So, first one, nature of outflow. General rule, best estimate yung gagamitin natin. If we are considering only one estimate, if involves a large population of items, so there are multiple possibilities, a wide variety of ranges, then we will use expected value or probability weighted average. Okay. And if there are two possible outcomes, each possible outcome in a range is like as likely as another. So parehas silang possible, then you should meet at midpoint. So technically, i-average mo lang siya. Hahanapin mo lang yung midpoint ng dalawang possibilities. Okay, sana may example. Sana meron. Okay, so recording the provision. Provisions are normally recognized as a debit to expense or loss and a credit on estimated liability account. So, however, sometimes a provision forms part of the cost of an asset. So, for example, provisions for restoration and decommissioning cost are capitalized as part of cost of the PPE. So, let's have an example on best estimate. On 2021, ABC Company received a court order requiring the cleanup of environmental damage caused by one of ABC's factory. ABC has no other realistic alternative but to comply with the court order. So, obligating event is there and the outflow of economic resource is there. So, kailangan na lang nating i-check is yung estimate. Is it reliably estimated? Okay, so other entities have incurred around 15 million for similar cleanup. However, ABC's best estimate of the cost of cleanup is 20 million. So there is a best estimate. So therefore, we need to record provision. So ito pala, step 1, ito yung present obligation due to obligating event. Number 2, is there outflow? Yes, because it is a court order. This is a legal obligation. And number 3, yes, there is best estimate as mentioned by the problem. Okay, so the conclusion, a provision must be accrued and disclosed in the amount of 20 million. So since this is the ABC's best estimate. Okay, so note, before a provision can be recognized, the answer to all of the questions in steps 1 to 3 must be yes. Must by yes? I think must be yes. If any of the question has a no or an answer, no provision is recognized. Okay, so kung alin man dito, o kung isa naman dito yung mawala, or ang maging sagot nyo ay no, then you should not recognize the provision. Okay? So, kailangan nyo lang naman kabisaduhin, is there a present obligation? Is the outflow probable? And can the outflow be measured reliably? So, para ka lang nagkakabisa ng what is asked, what are the given facts, what is the mathematical operation to be used. Kung naalala nyo yun. So, ganun lang siya. Okay. So, the entry to recognize the provision is this one. So, ginamit natin yung 20 million because it is deemed to be the best estimate. But, if the problem is stated both of these two amounts are considered to be best estimate or probable or possible amount na babayaran, then you have to meet at midpoint. So, around 17.5 million. So, that is the amount that should be recognized as provision had this 20 million is not labeled as the best estimate. Okay? So, question regarding dito. Okay. If wala, then let us continue. Illustration number 2. So, ito na nga siya. Ito nga yun. So expected value. In 2021, ABC company recalled a product due to a possible defect caused by malfunctioning factory equipment. So the products recalled will be repaired free of charge. ABC is uncertain whether all products recalled will have the possible defect. So however, the following estimate was made by ABC's engineers and managerial accountants and approved by the board of directors. So since it is internally generated, this is still subject for audit, especially ng actuary if actuarial valuation is required by the auditors or by the auditor themselves. Kung mag-agree si auditor sa gagawin nilang table like this, which is very straightforward, then there will be no problem on recognition of provision. Okay. But again, as we have mentioned earlier, nasaan na ba yun? Ito yung pinaka-reliable in terms of recognition of best estimate for provisions. Reports from independent experts. Okay. So, gano'n lang siya. After multiplying yung mga probabilities nila dun sa estimated costs, then you should arrive at this amount. Okay. So, this amount is considered to be the best estimate using the expected value method. Okay. So, to recognize to record the entry, ito siya, repair costs and estimated liability for repair costs. Okay, question regarding the expected method. Anyone? Wala? Okay, wala. Then let us continue. Illustration number 3, midpoint. So, very straightforward ulit. I-average mo lang. Pero basahin pa rin natin. In 2021, a lawsuit was filed against ABC Company for patent infringement. So, the plaintiff is claiming 1 million in damages. ABC's legal counsel believes that it is probable. So, again, there is a hint that the outflow of economic reasons is probable. ABC will lose the lawsuit and pay damages of not less than 10 million but not more than 100 million. There is a best estimate. And there is also the obligating event, which is the patent infringement. So therefore, a provision should be recognized. Okay, so the probability of any amount within the range is as likely as any other amount also within the range. So as likely as other. So kung magko-compute ka ng percentage based on expected value using these amounts, since they are as likely as each other, so they have they have all the same probabilities, and therefore mapupunta ka rin sa midpoint niya. Okay, sure yan, kahit itry nyo. Let's say all of them have a chance, let's say 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. So 9. So let's say each of them have 11 times 9, 11.111% of being the amount that will be paid. Still, magpo-fall ka sa 55 million dito, which is the midpoint. Okay, so in that case, kunin mo na lang yung lower and higher range. Pagkakuha mo niyan, then average mo lang. That's it. You will have 55 million. Okay. Okay, question. Okay. Wala na bang question? Okay, let's continue. Risk and uncertainties. Yes, wait. 12 na. I think, ituloy muna natin until dito sa ano. Wait. Kasi panibagong ano na to eh. Putol. So I think mag-lunch na muna kayo para mamaya tuloy-tuloy tayo kasi technically panibagong topic na to. Okay, so please be back at 12:30.